The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent, power, source, and force of love and creation forever. What's happening, Benton here? Just leaving the shipper after the 10-hour break, and got let's see, what time did I get here last night? 6 p.m. And if I had hours, would have been free to go at, I think, about an hour and a half ago. So what's that, 8.5 hours at the shipper? Worked out fine for me. I got some sleep. I do find it interesting that truck driving's a funny thing, because some of the drivers would understand before they got here that that was the deal, and then some of them would assume they'd be showing up, getting loaded, and maybe driving all night. Maybe some of them prefer to drive all night. I call it being kidnapped. What I like to do, and when I check in at the facility, the facility is reasonably sure that they have to have some idea of how long it's going to be, but they like to play their cards close to the vest, and who can blame them? Because a lot of cranky truckers would immediately panic if told, well, you're looking at 8.5 hours, buddy. What? So I've found ways to extract the information from the staff while communicating. Well, this is not going to be viewed as a guarantee. If you tell me 1 hour and it's 4 hours, this conversation never happened. I'm trying to get an idea of what is my level of comfort going to be. Should I take a nap? Should I relax? The hypervigilance won't allow me to. Turned out this was a nap while listening for the phone situation to ring. So, wasn't really able to sleep, in the idea of going to sleep, going into deep sleep, and getting 6 hours of sleep or more. However, it did keep me from driving all night. I like to drive in the morning time after sleeping, not all night after being up all day. Not a fan. Not a fan. Something's up. The old throat chakra feels a little blocked. Wonder if it was the publicly praying on stream yesterday. Something about praying in the streets. They surely have their reward type thing. I don't know if that applies to the royal we. Probably just most likely it will open up in the course of this discourse. So if you hear me sort of some intonations, or I may forcefully let the energies go where they want to go. If that makes any kind of sense. I don't know that I even know what I mean. I might need to cough. Give me just a second here. Woo. Yeah, that helped. Crawling through some little towns in Ohio, headed to Chicago, where presumably this will be the last day with this company. It's hard to tell. And the gaslighting has been off the charts. And is that par for the course nowadays? I'm thinking maybe the gaslighting, that's just sort of built into society at this point, isn't it? I think so. And I talked to Lou last night, who I was under the impression wasn't remaining with the company, but maybe they were just, who knows? That's part of the gaslighting, the off the charts gaslighting. If I mentioned to the owner later, hey, I thought, who I'm almost certain told me at a certain point just not to even take Lou's calls, which is actually how we got to the whole me venting a little bit of anger his way yesterday. Was I took his call, so not following instructions. And then, interestingly, is perhaps that the catalyst for me making my exit from the company, which certainly seems and feels like the move. And one thing about dealing with old Benton in the context of employing truck drivers contractually, yeah, the bloom may be off the rose, but from the company owner's perspective, dealing with potential new hires or maybe having some even more seemingly negative interactions with other drivers, maybe Benton starts to look less, less of a bother or a pain. I mean, is sleep really too much to ask? Proper sleep on a, more or less a proper schedule. I don't think that's too much to ask. I really don't. What is all this traffic first thing in the morning in this little town? This is crazy. People coming out of everywhere. Bizarre. What time is it? 4:30 in the morning. I've activated the town, apparently. Perhaps I could have waited to start the stream after escaping the town here. Now we're driving a big rig around the town square. Why wouldn't we? Yeah. The holiday lights at the courthouse, but not Christmas themed, of course. We're running a red light. Not sitting here. Not gonna remember. He's got the Grinch on their lawn there, a large inflatable Grinch. The corner store's not even open yet. Where are all of these people going? It's a guy walking down the street. I don't believe we are anywhere near the interstate. Oh, well. Shout out to the listeners, replay crew as well. But yeah, being told not to even bother taking Lou's calls, and then knowing from experience, if I mention this later, it will be claimed that he never said that, and then potentially implying that I must be crazy. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, well, certainly based on the behavior of working as a truck driver in 2025, where now apparently things have degenerated, perhaps in part because of decades now of employment, pressing into service of coolies from other lands, not just Benton as white nigger coolie, the N-word, lest we forget. And all that entails. But certainly has undermined any notions of safety in the industry. So much so that, and certainly when I started truck driving in 2018, it was taken seriously, safety, but some of it is lip service. And, I would say, I think the pandemic changed a lot of things just with respect to people's views on safety. And, I drive safely for myself because it's the right thing to do, and because, the truck drivers are regularly and routinely sent to prison for causing accidents. Not trying to get involved in any of that. And then at times people are doing their best job to see if I will accept their invitation to hit them so they can call the injury attorney and get a settlement. That's some people's economic stimulus plan, certainly. I would hope that we could all agree as a so-called nation and all of this. It's probably a good idea to let the truck drivers get some sleep. Well, even the situation at this shipper, surely everybody realizes that I'm not necessarily properly rested, and now we're going to drive 5 hours. But I'm alert, attentive. It's fine. What's up, Rick? Uncle Rick down there in the chat. Shout out to my new glasses prescription. Long overdue. Although without the fancy dancy coating, now dealing with them. Something that I never dealt with my old lenses, such as fogging up. So we'll see how this goes in the long run. Felt like it was a pretty good stream yesterday afternoon or evening. Got a lot off my chest, had a lot of things to discuss. So a bit, I don't know that deflated is the proper term this morning. However, not full of piss and vinegar. I'll just chalk that up to the lack of sleep. Looking forward to, assuming I manage to, again, who knows with the gaslighting. I don't even know if I'm done with this job or not. It's unclear. Oh yeah, back to Lou calling me last night. And I don't I don't consider this to be Gen Z's fault. It's hard for me to blame the youth really for anything. I'm pretty sure Lou's in his 20s. Not certain, but I'm pretty sure Gen Z. And, what have these people been raised on? Well, in what I would argue is post-capitalist society in many ways, sacrificed to Moloch's machine of industrial and post-industrial society out of the gate, and then, raised perhaps by millennial or Gen X helicopter parents, and all of this pharmaceutical interventions and, anxiety meds and depression meds and all of this. Just the base level of confident, communication that many folks have. It's funny that so many people talk about so-called anxiety. It's like, well, yeah, why are folks so confident? Hopped up on God knows what. Hopped up on goofball. Maybe like the feller in the thumbnail. Kind of 60s radical apparent. Occupier of campus buildings, perhaps. The dude abides. Do people even understand that reference? The beloved movie, The Big Lebowski, where the dude at least claimed to have been involved in some of that 60s radical, writing of manifestos or whatever, occupying of buildings perhaps on campus. Yeah, there you go. Pass me. Good. Get on around. Why you waited to do that? Unclear, but good job. Old Dodge Neon. Not that there's a new Dodge Neon. Not quite the horrible cars that they're portrayed to be, actually. The Dodge Neon. Also the Chrysler PT Cruiser. A little bit better mechanically than folks may otherwise realize. Yeah, that carpet really pulled the room together. That's right. Carpet pissers. Does it look like I'm fucking married? The toilet seat's up, man. Yeah. Oh, it never ends. Very quotable movie. He treats his women like he treats his objects like women, man. Anyway, I'll not go any further into that. Ancient history by now. Ancient history. Yeah, assuming I manage to leave the job today, I am looking forward to at least a week in a hotel, just if only to rest up properly. Let's see how much of these groceries I can consume before it's off on foot, which is not altogether, or other modes of transportation. It is a different ball game with money versus traveling around the country, sleeping rough, living out of a backpack for all those years with little to no money and no regular income in the conventional sense, at least. I don't know that exciting is the term, but again, I'm over the car thing. I'm just over it. I do occasionally catch some homeless themed content or homeless vagabond content. Every once in a while, one of these content creators manages to not thoroughly annoy me. I'll watch some of their videos, and then invariably, uh, they will annoy me in some way, or I will allow myself to become annoyed. But it's the boomers in the comments, man, who none of them have any experience with van life. You know, I estimate a third of them are hoarder shut-ins, but they've seen all this content and they think that it's appropriate for them to go down into the YouTube comments. And I've seen a couple of different just breakdowns of like, well, here's what you do: go to Pahrump, Nevada, and you can easily become a resident in short order. This was so crazy. I screenshotted it and then basically saying it's easy to get and register a vehicle, and you can I recommend an older minivan. It's like, now I could absolutely pick this plan to pieces, no problem. But number one, Pahrump, Nevada would be a particularly poor choice for, just in my opinion. Now, I could be wrong. I actually don't know that I ever went there as a homeless person to Pahrump. I know historically, anything anywhere stray very far from the interstate in Nevada, and that's an old school. We hate transients and vagrants, and in fact, I'm pretty sure Nevada still has vagrancy laws on the books, like active vagrancy, like for real. Meaning, like in the old days, it was some version of you had to have like $2 in your pocket. And that probably goes back to some Depression era thing where, some towns didn't mind the hobos rolling into town, and they provided a service, some of them. But, other places were inhospitable. But, and I've seen several versions of that same thing. Just, armchair quarterbacking the homeless life. It's like, what even is this? And then, you get into the idea of people who support over time. I know there was this one guy, younger fella, probably in his 30s, kind of a big doofy, maybe raised fundamentalist, religious, whether, I don't know what flavor of fundamentalism. I haven't heard him mention it, but he just kind of seems like the type. But I forget his name. And he does a lot of hitchhiking. He rides the rails from time to time. And I guess he's probably in his 30s. And he'll take, he'll get fed up and take a regular job here and there. But I think at a certain point, he was saying he had a regular contributor that was giving him like $500 a month, like every month. What the fuck? Which I'm all for it. Yeah, that's great. But, and it's fairly obvious that if this guy's not actually putting effort into content, that he'll just do like a 7-minute update video here and there, which is, more or less dry begging. Which, look, I mean, I've done plenty of panhandling in my time. And if somebody's scared of actual work, I don't have an issue with that necessarily, but I wouldn't wish a job on my so-called worst enemy, certainly. Hard work performed in service of already rich corporations can never be a virtue. Yeah, do not, well, excessively. Thank you, bulk hungry. Yeah, we don't have a lot of rules around here. And this is not by way of correcting. This is merely to point out to someone who may be hearing this for the first time. It's actually do not excessively annoy the host, which is, it's mostly an acknowledgement that historically virtually everything that occurs annoys me on some level. Although that's not really a thing anymore with the. So maybe it is annoy the host. Maybe we should. Maybe we could remove the excessively. So maybe you're right on the money there. But yeah, historically it's been do not excessively annoy the host, which is some tacit acknowledgement of the, you know, humanity's annoyingness in general. And of course, old Benton here would include himself in being annoying. But anyway, back to Lou. I had a bizarre, surreal conversation with Lou last night, and as a bit of an anthropologist and sociologist and keen observer of human behavior, I'm detecting that old Lou is it's a cultural fake it till you make it. Because at a certain point, that was just kind of a strategy that people, maybe were adopting, and sort of some people were smart enough to sort of figure it out on their own. Maybe other people would kind of advise that to their friends or coworkers. But in talking to Lou last night, he's directing me as a truck driver, which I don't really have an issue with, because as far as I know, this is my last load and I'm leaving anyway. And it seems like the owner of the company is, trying to coach Lou up on, how to be able to interact with older, cranky men, right? And especially with Lou, most likely, may never achieve the status of actual man, which is a status. And society no longer produces men. And I've noted many times that when and where I was socialized, it was compulsory. Boys were made into men. It wasn't up to us. Because, certainly some of us would have remained in mama's basement playing video games had that been an option. And I mean the metaphorical mama's basement. Mama wasn't going for it. Daddy damn sure wasn't going for it, because he was, maybe he hit it well, maybe he didn't, but he was in a bad mood for he's paying for everything. Oh, you think you're hanging out here past the age of 18? You're out of your fucking mind, buddy. That wasn't my parents necessarily. My parents were, my father had been hypnotized into this "you must go to college" thing, and how it would have reflected on him since his father was still alive. If my father's own son didn't go to college, and hell, the man was paying for it, why wouldn't I go? And meanwhile, Arkansas, where I attended college, was ranking quite high in Playboy's best party schools back in the early 90s. In fact, may have been number one my freshman year, 93, 94. So, maybe coming up, if it was 93, then that would refer to the longer portion of the year, which would be, it'd be 92, 93. I think that's how that works. Either way, I had a good time. Undebatably. Now, how did I get on to college? See, this is the potential early onset dementia. Why am I in this room of the house? Why are my car keys in my hand? Is this Christopher Nolan's film Memento? Am I chasing him? No, he's chasing me. Society no longer performs this function. And again, in service of Moloch's machine for its own purposes. When American society needed a steady procession of men to do things like, many things that I won't even begin to list here. Well, they were, surprise, surprise, Moloch's machine cranked them out. And now it's cranking out extended adolescence males who are probably mostly cranking one out as we speak in a, I don't even like the term that, for masturbation, the new term. So let's not get into that whatsoever, but it's quite surreal. Reminded me that this is a dream on some level. That's not the entirety of what's happening here in this place, but those elements are, whether the being notices them or not, they are always present. In fact, having read a book on lucid dreaming in my teenage years and then actually doing as it suggested, keeping a dream journal, practicing the technique. Because of all of this practice of meditation and training myself to be observant and then learning certain things about, whether it's psychological operations, spiritual warfare, demonology, numerology, visually, especially seeing many things in the environment that are reminders to yours truly that, oh yeah, this is a dream on some level. Always. It's never not a dream on some level, as far as I can tell. But yeah, just a bizarre, surreal, difficult to explain conversation with old Lou, the Gen Z dispatcher, who's doing as instructed, but not based on competence, because in many ways society is not based on competence if it ever was. And so why would Lou? Now he's certainly competent in the things that serve him, but does it even serve him in 2025 to actually be competent and capable of doing his job? And then remember, he's calm, cool, collected, and mostly unbothered, although I think the owner chewed his ass probably first thing yesterday morning. And here's where Benton provides a helpful service is, oh, I'll take a chewing, but I'll probably chew myself out. I'm hard enough on myself. There's really no chewing out old Benton. But what I will not do is take somebody else's ass chewing. It's like, no, man, you fucked up. I didn't fuck up. Now, I fucked up in other ways. No, I'm the guy driving a truck who chose to park this bitch and get a good night's sleep. That's a very different thing than old Lou bebopping into work thinking everything's hunky-dory, getting his ass chewed because he wasn't on top of things and didn't even fucking notice probably that I pulled over, slept. I bet the owner noticed, and I bet he said, okay, well, we'll see who else notices. And I do like the, I won't even say like is a proper term. I've, there's something attractive in that, just a way of doing business. It's kind of, I find it funny, Not a fan of some of the things, but that's, I find humorous. And even me, fucking up and going into violation on the ELD, and not too bothered about it, but just the way when we were talking yesterday, and the way he referred to it, now we have a lovely violation. Yeah, man. Hopefully, we'll just hope for the best. As long as they don't pull me over and inspect me, and even then, I got a 50-50 shot on schmoozing my way out of it. And half of that's just falling on my sword. Like, hey man, here's what happened, and I thought this is how it worked, and it turned out I was wrong. And now I know, and knowing's half the battle. And, go Joe and all of that. Yo Joe, greatest American hero and such. Thank you for your service. See, so I think lose, fake it till you make it is sort of it's a version of what I just described, which is kind of a social engineering and let me socially engineer these bozos through, manipulation and certain things that come naturally. And it's kind of fun. And maybe they can sort of tell that they're getting handled right and sort of worked in a way. I don't mind being handled and worked metaphorically. Get your minds out of the gutter, truthers, but or don't. I mean, whatever. I'm not here to. Much like the fellow in the thumbnail who claimed he's not here to give directives or a leader of a movement. Maybe I'll share that video that I found, that screenshot. It's an interesting portion of the speech. But he's basically saying he's more or less saying I'm not here to tell people what to do, but I'm also not here to be told what to do. And I don't mind necessarily if Lou's just like, but it's not his skill set. It's not his skill set to tell me what to do, and I've already shown him that I'll break my foot off in his ass, and quite unpredictably, and you won't even see it coming. So now he just wants to know more or less why did I do that? He's and kind of in the way of, in a sociopathic way, like trying to get the information. Like, okay, why? If he knows he's going to be dealing with what, from his perspective, is a boomer, like why is the boomer doing this? Very interesting. But it's in part of the taking all beatings. See, I can see how a lot of Gen X or a lot of boomers would be very turned off and very much annoyed by somebody who, in fact, is not bothering to become competent at their job. And in fact, I would argue at this point, society is incentivizing him to not become competent at his job. And I mean the actual details and ins and outs. Because it was off the charts surreal what he wasn't even competent enough to have the conversation with me, much less tell me what to do. It's this idea of, I've worked for people in the past or worked with people who couldn't, if I wasn't available, who could not have done my job. Now it's 2025 and he's not supervising me, but we're, working together. He's dispatching me on the loads. He's not even competent to have the conversation with me about, my hours, when am I going to be legal to drive again? The appointment time is 10 a.m. I'm in a different time zone that I'm delivering in. Like, I would need to walk Lou through all of this, which maybe I would, maybe I'll tell the owner, like, hey, I could train old Lou for you if you want. I'd probably do it just for the content. I could probably train Lou and him not even know I'm training. If he has enough free time. And here's the difference between Eastern European Vitaly, who was in a frenetic state of stress, anxiety, and fear almost every time I talked to him, except when I pissed him off. And then he would just talk to me like he was going to punch me in the face, which is fine. I mean, number one, that's not a possibility. Number two, I mean, man to man, I know how to deal with men who might actually be considering punching me in the face. So yeah, I know what to do. I know how to handle it. I'm not offended that I'm detecting in his vocal tone that he's angry enough that he might prefer to punch me in the face at this time. Okay, sure, fair enough, buddy. Understood. We got it. Moving on. And, juxtaposing that with if Lou's going to treat the job as if he's got all the time in the world and it's relaxed and, Gen Z ain't going for the corporate bullshit and they're going to act their wage, meaning if he's making $20 an hour, I don't know, it's Chicago area, so he might be making, hell, he's making more per hour than I'm making. Well, he's on commission. That's right. He's on commission. And so I guess if he wants to take a commission job and be relaxed, well, the owner's not going to tolerate that in the long run. Most assuredly. Either way. But yeah, assuming he's going to treat it like he's got all the time in the world, if I can get enough time on the phone with him, I could train him without him knowing I was training him. And, I would say, and when I was a young person, I don't know that I would have figured this out, but I would say if he's genuinely curious about why I responded to him in the way that I responded to him, which was when confronted on my behavior, which was, in my view, not inappropriate behavior, and actually, from my perspective, was wholly appropriate. I wasn't going to take an ass chewing for it, especially not for somebody who done fucked up enough to just have received an ass chewing. Meanwhile, he doesn't even know how to chew anybody's ass. So. And I do get triggered at times by the passive aggression because, and then again, aggression directed towards a cranky old man, aggressive by nature individual such as Benton. I mean, typically that is going to elicit aggression. Typically, right? Either way. Did I accidentally get the sugared? There's sugar in this? Nope, unsweet. Anyway, it's so what I said to him, and he would have heard the vocal tone. And this is Adam Carolla's "In 50 Years We'll All Be Chicks," which was the title of one of his popular best-selling books. And then he's declared, well, actually, it's already happened. Since then, he said, well, I was way off on the timeline. But, and it's neither here nor there, but Lou's certainly socialized to behave in certain ways that I won't even call them feminine, because that would be an insult to. I have a high regard for femininity. It's a lack of masculinity. Because he's free to just say, hey, man, that's fucked up that instead of driving out the rest of your clock last night, you fucking parked and went to sleep. And I would have said, okay, thank you for telling me. Maybe next time, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm a little retarded. And if that was your expectation, you probably should have shared that with me, sir. Did you talk to the criminal? Right. And I know from your perspective, I might not seem the type of fella who will handle being just directly told things. But in fact, I'm so fucking dense. You probably need to just straight up tell me that your expectation is I'm going to drive out the remainder of my clock, and then maybe I still won't. But now you're off the hook, buddy, because you done told me. Right? And then, so that would have been the man-to-man conversation that I was able to have with Vitaly, because Vitaly was like, hey, man, what more or less, what's the meaning of this? And I'm like, yo, man, I understand that you assume that this is what I would have done. Guess what? You're dealing with some level of retardation here. How about next time you just fucking tell me what you're expecting? And then if I choose not to do it, I will call the owner and explain to him why I did what I did. Because I'm a grown-ass man. I'll leave that in parentheses, but in parentheses, as a grown-ass man. Right. or you can even call it put your big girl pants on. Either way, it's not a completely male. It's really got nothing to do with the genital composition. But Lou, being socialized, and I have some affinity for Gen Z based on I don't think boomers understand, and Gen X, when we want to blame Gen Z, do y'all not understand that when they went to school, they weren't allowed to be masculine? I mean, for the most part, yeah, there's exceptions, of course, but by and large, especially depending on where these people grew up, a lot of them, for them to behave like boys in the classroom, these Marxist, communist, BLM, Antifa teachers would have treated that like literal oppressive towards female, meaning, yay, you're making an uncomfortable environment. How can your female classmates be comfortable in the face of this toxic masculinity? And you start telling a 7-year-old boy that, all they ever do is internalize that. Now, some of them will be like, well, fuck you, you're out of your fucking mind. Some of them, most of them will internalize. And it is child abuse. And now you've got systematic child abuse. And it probably was systematic child abuse in my day to some extent. But, what can reasonably be expected from this guy? And so did he ever really have a chance? But, it's everything I could do not to just laugh at him, because just how incompetent his performance was on the phone. And again, the fake it till you make it of, and I'm a good listener. I'm an active, patient listener for the until I feel like I need to forcefully express myself. And then good luck getting a word in edgewise at that point, until I've said my piece. But meanwhile, I have to think, if it was 1960 motherfucking 2, and we were on a job site or a factory or, whatever, where there probably was still the time of actual men settling their differences with their fists, I probably could just look a fella, make eye contact, and be like, yo, man, this is what it is. It's like, if you're going to kick my ass, I guess you're going to kick my ass. But I mean, this is what it is. At a certain point, they're going to tell me what they think, and now we're done. That's a big part of, masculine or man-to-man communication is, yo, man, I've got a thing to say. I'm going to say it. And if you've got a thing to say, it's kind of up to you to figure out how to convey it. And probably I'll choose to hear you out, or you'll force me to hear you out, or we'll just beat the fuck out of each other. And then that's the universal language. So either way, two-way communication will most likely occur. And, reading Woody Guthrie's book, where he traveled around the country, this land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Islands guy. He traveled around hobo style, singing for his supper. Well, it turned out his daddy, before the Depression, I guess, before the bust, was some version of a wildcatter in Oklahoma. And apparently, business success at the time had a lot to do with a man's fist fighting skill, which does not actually have a lot to do with physical size in a lot of cases. So Woody Guthrie's father, not particularly well built, apparently was really nice with his hands, which apparently Woody Guthrie inherited that skill. And some folks I have never had an interest in fist fighting. I honestly, who knows, maybe I am now not in my degenerated post chronic illness state, but who knows, maybe I would have been good at it. Don't know, don't care to find out. Not interested, doesn't appeal to me in the slightest. Who knows, I'm fairly athletic and coordinated, and who knows, I'm left-handed, which is supposedly an advantage in fighting. I don't know, don't want to find out. Either way, I think y'all understand what I'm on about with communication. And it came off silly, right? silly. And this is why you can't really call it feminine, because that's an insult to women. Because if this was a woman that I had been flirting with, it would have been endearing and perhaps cute. In a male, it's just kind of like, all right, well, that just happened. Okay. Moving on. And I actually had napped out a little bit, noticed that he called and just called him back sort of in my slumber. So, and I go into airplane mode when I go to sleep, but because I knew that the facility might be calling me for a dock door, I had to leave the old phone going. And when I went to like 3 or 4 different, I think 4 different U-Haul, these larger U-Haul places that do these U-boxes. I picked up and delivered some of those. And the first one I went to was somewhere near Baltimore, in Gen Z. And he's not the normal forklift man, but he's, fills in certain days. And he was competent on his job. Surprise, surprise, the guy who, he has to pick up these boxes with a forklift. And, there's probably bonded. Well, surprise, surprise. And yeah, he does the office work to some extent. He's behind the counter for the most part. But surprise, surprise, he's actually competent on his job. Isn't that interesting? There's no throw them to the wolves of fake it till you make it in the warehouse. And I'm sure there is to some extent, but that's more of an agricultural thing, which is how my heel got broken. Because a guy was operating a loader who wasn't certified or trained in how to operate a loader. And it was my second day on the job, and I had no fucking idea. This bozo didn't know what he was doing. And I suspect may very well have done it on purpose. And in fact, that was back when I still carried a firearm, and I strongly considered shooting him in his foot. And in fact, if I had known for sure my heel was broken, I'm almost certain I'd have shot him. I'm not even kidding. I'm almost certain I'd have shot him in the foot. I'm from one of those kind of places. And I would have went before the judge, who would have been like, hey, man, you recognize I have to do something to you here. But we all sort of get it at the same time. I would have been in trouble, but not that much trouble. It's kind of like in trouble, but with an explanation. Like, he did what now? It's like, yeah, he's on paper, he's a violent criminal, but no, a guy perhaps intentionally dropped him 13 feet onto the concrete, and he could have been killed if not for his own athletic ability. He managed to get his feet under him to break his heel, and he then produced a handgun and shot the fella in the foot who done it, and then called the police and explained himself to the judge, and now that's on his permanent record. So yeah, do with that, and has never had any involvement in crime otherwise. So whatever that means, and would tell the judge some version of, hey, I would do it again, Your Honor. So not proud of it, but not shying away from it for it. And also, that's what he deserved. I don't know what to say, man. Eye for an eye. Wouldn't do that today, of course. That was a very different Benton. This Benton doesn't even carry weapons. That one did. Certainly considered it. While if it says something about the type of fella Benton is, while trying to figure out, do I need to go to the hospital, or is this thing just extremely badly bruised? Although I should have known. I felt my entire heel fill up with blood immediately. And it's like, here's your sign. And was still able to walk on it. Thankfully, didn't manage to dislocate it. And then I went to a hospital, an emergency room, who told me that it was broken and probably I was going to need surgery, and have a nice day, and we don't even have crutches for you, but here's a air quotes prescription, and take this down to CVS. They're open all night. And I'm thinking to myself, Pretty sure CVS don't sell crutches, but okay. And then I got into my manual transmission car and drove myself around with a broken heel. No cast, right? Basically, you're going to have to go see the surgeon. They gave me the boot. Yeah, they gave me the boot, the air boot, or the inflatable. I got the better version of the boot later on, which I only mostly wore to go to sleep in. Once the doc figured out I really wasn't into the boot, he was like, "Yeah, mainly you just need to sleep in it, and that's mostly so you don't dislocate this motherfucker while you're sleeping, thrashing around like a bozo." I'm like, all right, doc. And I knew, because I'm a researcher and I've got a brain in a way, I knew it was actually good to put weight on the thing while I was mostly in bed for 3 months. And I understood it was good to put my weight on it from time to time. And I also understood there's really no point hobbling around with that walking boot, because I'm not walking on it. I'm going to have the crutches. I think that walking boot is mainly to protect the bozos who are going to walk on it no matter what happens. It's like, yeah, I'll put some weight on it here and there. I'm not just going to start walking around day one. That's crazy. I would like my foot to work. I want this thing to heal as thoroughly as possible. So I got nice footwork, doc. I'm trying to maintain my mobility here. I'm nice. I like to walk. It's one of my favorite things. I mean, it sounds redundant in this scenario, but yeah, it's one of my favorite activities, sir. I enjoy it thoroughly. Always have. Big fan. Do it for fun, regularly. But thinking back to maybe shooting this guy in the foot, that would have been one of the most Arkansas things ever. Imagine being a fella operating a loader. You drop a guy onto the concrete. Thankfully, he's not killed, and he more or less conveys that I think my foot's broken, and then calmly pulls out a handgun and aims it at your foot and pulls the trigger. And then just stands there, looks at your reaction, and produces a cell phone and calls 911, and then waits for the police and tells what he done. That would have been one of the most Arkansas things ever. Of course, clears the gun, puts it safely in plain view. Make sure to put his hands up when the cops show up, because all they're ever going to do is be nervous because they know that there's a gun somewhere. Somebody's fired it off. They don't want to catch any strays. Now, if it's a state trooper, he won't give a fuck. Arkansas state troopers are an interesting breed, because I've seen a lot of these Arkansas state trooper videos where people get critical in the comments. They're like, I can't believe that professional lawman, turned his back to the criminal and this, that, and the third. That criminal could have done this. I said, no, you don't understand. That trooper's halfway hoping that the criminal does attack him. No, they want to be attacked in a way. It's not that they're dumb or bad at their job. It's like, number one, they are, I don't even like the police. I'm one of these all cops are bastard people, but I'm saying I respect the Arkansas State Police. Old school lawman in a way. And it's kind of like mano y mano. If that suspect wants to get it on, they're more than happy to get it on. Like, oh, okay, here we go, buddy. And seeing a lot of people, and I've talked about this before, in the old days, a lot of people don't know, in the old days, a lawman had to be able to physically subdue whoever they were arresting, because some people would say, hey, I don't think I'm going to let you arrest me. Nicolas Cage In fact, that was an entire premise of a Nicolas Cage movie, and not one of the bad ones. One of his pretty decent indie movies. It was basically he was the town badass, and at a certain point, the law had to figure out how to deal with him. And it was, good luck arresting this guy. Who's going to be able to deal with him? And so what I've noticed with the state troopers is they don't have body cams; they have dash cams. And when it's a bailout and they got to chase somebody on foot, they position their cruiser and then they cuff the guy. Now, even if somebody helps them cuff the suspect, they 100% of the time by themselves walk that suspect to their cruiser and make sure to get him on dash cam, and then they stuff him in the cruiser 100% of the time. And we have a female trooper now. She's a big old gigantic Hispanic lady. I forget her name. And that's the only thing I've seen her not be able to do is she needed help dragging the feller back to her cruiser. But it was her arrest, and by God, she was going to be the one to at least have majority control of the suspect. She just didn't necessarily have the physical strength to do it. But some of the, it's not like the trooper can. Sometimes they need a little help, the male troopers. But then it's solo trip to the cruiser, And, that's a visceral thing. That's a visceral part of being a man. As silly of an undertaking as that is, certainly. And yeah, I come from a culture where if a fella drops another fella onto the concrete, the dropee might just shoot the motherfucker who did the dropping. Like, that is possible. It's a flesh wound, Your Honor. He's expected to make a full recovery. Yeah, I'm Lou. Who the fuck are you? That's right. Lou, who are you? Lou, 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 Lou. Damn it, who the fuck is Lou? Anyway, let's not do that. But boomers and singing. Man, I got so off in the middle of nowhere, road tripping. Remember where the fuck I was? Was I truck driving? Oh, I was coming back to go to truck driving in my little car. Oh yeah, Gas Buddy directed me off the interstate for some cheap gasoline in Arizona. Some tourist town. I heard a song that was a huge hit. And here's how you knew a song really entered the zeitgeist: is if my dad's convenience store and all the other stores, somebody did bootleg T-shirts for the song, and everybody came in there wanting them T-shirts. But it was swanging. Anybody remember Justice? We was swanging, and that was a cultural phenomenon. They're playing motherfucking swanging, and there was a van of Chinese from China. And I rarely have gas, but something was going on at the time. I had some powerful gas, and if you've ever been around these type of Chinese, it's a very different culture than America, and it's mostly women, and they have they're very racist. The Chinese are the most racist people there are. And they're very rude and pushy and aggressive. Well, that's fine. I mean, I'm most of that describes me in some way, not the racist part, but I'll answer to much of that. And so when I wasn't, directly walking at them because they're, for whatever reason, just walking right at me when there's plenty of room to go around each other. I blasted them repeatedly with noxious gas out of my hind end, and I'm pretty sure they knew it. And it seemed warranted on some level. And this is where Americans really prove themselves to be bozos, in my view. And yeah, I'm overly accommodating myself at times, but I roll up there and it's a tight lot. It's really the only place to get fuel. It's like downtown. It's touristy. It's hard to get in and out. I've got a tiny little car. Instead of waiting, I just whip in and reverse into the only available pump. Now, part of this is I can immediately I see, oh, these are China people, China women from China, and I just immediately know what the score. It's just like I know to just sort of push my way in, and I know that they're going to act like I'm inconveniencing them, and I'm not. This is a cultural thing they do. Culturally, I'm inconveniencing them no matter what. That's just how they are. So, okay, I know how to play that game, right? I know how to just sort of move in a China shop my way through this. And then going inside, and it's, local, not white person, but at this point, American white person and American black person, it's almost the same fucking thing at this point. I mean, it really is. I mean, yeah, and I'm a Southerner, so we got our own flavor going on. I'm not saying blacks don't have their own flavor, deeper shade of soul. Yeah, but more alike than dissimilar, I would say at this point, especially in corporate servitude to the man, the so-called man. Make sure I'm still on the correct route here. I think I am. Yeah, we're good. And it's a long ass line, and all I'm trying to do is pay for gas. And then, there's a local guy, probably some version of mentally ill, racially ambiguous, West Coaster type. You got to be rich, or you don't have to be rich, but there's some measure of affluence to even live in the town. Certainly, this is an expensive area. Yeah, but somebody's got to be the clerk at the gas station. So I have no idea who this guy lives with or what his deal is. But, he's having, and part of his job is schmoozing the locals. I understand that. But just sort of a very business-like, don't appreciate my time being wasted. But really, I don't give a fuck. It's those Chinese out there got me a little riled up, but not really riled up, just sort of the vigilance is kicked in. So I'm all business by the time I get to the counter. Hoping I don't have to come back for change and go back through that line, which is only long because of the conversating. But I get it. Got to keep people from driving all the way up to the interstate and doing their business there. Provide a little bit of the personal touch. Been there, done that. Famously, I've talked about one of my college buddies, a Patel. I worked with him at a gas station that he purchased not too long after college. And we had these hardcore regulars. If you know anything about convenience store people, that their whole day is they go to convenience stores. I'm talking 6 to 30 trips to convenience stores. And I've been a version of this at times, certainly. I've even been a version of stand at the counter and talk to the clerk guy. If you've ever seen this guy, when he most of the time they politely get the fuck out of your way when you come up to the counter, but they linger and they're waiting patiently for you to get the fuck out of there so they can go back to having a conversation with the clerk. I've been that guy, and I've been clerk who as long as, and part of that is the person who wants to stand there and conversate with the clerk has to know how to do it without because certainly that version of Benton had zero tolerance for fools or annoying conversation. So I would have just been like, all right, man, you're going to have to beat it. I don't know what to tell you. I hope you don't take this personally, but you're going to get the fuck out of my face. But yeah, so I'm, as long as they know how to behave themselves, who cares? Helps the time go by. But, I'm not going to be able to remind them too many times, hey, man, you're blocking the plate. You're blocking the counter, buddy. Hey, you're blocking the plate. Let's go, man. Let's go. Move it, move it, move it. How much is gas out here in Ohio? $2.50 something at the Murphy's Oil at Walmart. So back to my buddy the Patel. So he had an outgoing, engaging personality. I did at the time. And what he said was, man, it's an easy business as far as getting repeat customers. You basically just greet them, make some kind of joke at their expense, or some people, make sure to work in a little self-deprecation. But most people, they like having their balls busted a little bit. Nothing crazy, just a little bit, and then thank them and send them on their way. But and do that every time. But of course, I have a lot of customer service experience. Everybody gets a greeting and everybody gets thanked. 100% of the time. There's no exception. And what we noticed is because I continued working there for a few months after my buddy sold it to a fellow Indian, which that was a whole thing. Interesting seeing that deal go down in the protracted negotiations. In fact, I think they might have had to bring in a third-party Indian. And my buddy actually at times would have to go somewhere and do some, be more or less a mediator of negotiations, which I feel like would be one of my skills. I think I'd be pretty good at that. At a certain point, he was coaching me up, telling me, I was kind of lost before I got into IT, so I hadn't quite decided what I was going to do to, air quotes, earn a living. He was like, since you're trustworthy, and he later on had a motel, and just him and his wife and his kids left for the weekend and just left me with the motel with a minor amount of instructions. And it's like, you could pretty easily just make a decent amount of money traveling around Florida here so Indians can get the weekend off. Or maybe even all they need is somebody they know won't steal everything or, cause fucking chaos while they're gone. That's all they care about. It's not even really about turning a profit necessarily. Just they understand there's a reason you're not in the hotel business, and you're white, so what can we reasonably expect on that level? But I don't know, man. I guess my own lack of ambition. I think I would have enjoyed it. Seemed interesting. Did not pursue it. That was back in like my mid-20s. I hadn't fully come to grips with that in fact I was extremely introverted. So I think what happened there was I was engaged in way too much social interaction on a daily basis, and the idea of actually performing such a thing was just too onerous. It's like I was talking to my mom about all the things that my uncle does for my grandmother, my mom's mom, my grandmother. And I told my mom, I was like, it's because my uncle's also a workaholic. And, he's doing a lot of caretaking for his mom, my grandmother. And, I told my mom, I said, I could do that. It's just I couldn't do anything else. I said, I absolutely, because she's basically saying, I don't know how he puts up with her every day. It's, my grandmother's a very, powerful, mentally strong 90-year-old with dementia. That makes him quite aggressive. 91-year-old with, powerful personality and all of these things. Well respected, rightfully so. And, it's like, yeah, I could do that. I wouldn't be able to do anything else. I said, anytime I wasn't taking care of her would be involved in doing whatever I need to do to be able to take care of her without wanting to strangle her. Because make no mistake, this is where I think a lot of elder abuse happens. Is people, especially with their family members, they end up in situations where they're going to care for this person, but they really don't have the means, or they're not facilitated in, okay, how are they going to, who's going to help them deal with themselves? It's like, yeah, at this point, I know how to get enough alone time. I know how to tell everybody to fuck off. I know how to decompress. And that's what would be required, is all of my attention and focus would be towards whatever she needed. And when it wasn't, it would all be directed towards what do I need to do to be able to not want to, start fantasizing about physically harming somebody. Not that I would ever do that. The point is, it's like, yeah, I'm sure my uncle doesn't suffer from that, but I don't know how he does it. It's like, because he does all this other shit too. It's like, how is this? I don't know. Some people are going to be workaholics, and maybe they'll martyr themselves and talk about, oh, nobody wants to work. Gen Z don't want to work. And it's like, yeah, motherfucker, you don't know how not to work. As my voice cracks, or we're going through puberty again. Like, yeah, motherfucker, you wouldn't know how to not work and put in a day's work. So what's that got to do with anything? You'd work for free, motherfucker. And everybody knows it. So you saying Gen Z don't want to work, I don't really see how that's relevant. Or calling somebody, yeah, they are lazy. Welcome to people. Meanwhile, I'm fairly hardworking, and I'm not trying to compete with you, buddy. I don't want no parts of that. This guy works from sun up to sundown pretty much every day of his life, as far as I can tell. And that's what he wants to do. Hey, good on him. Not interested. No, thank you. Now, again, as a truck driver, and I think I got into talking about work because I mentioned some content creator who seems to be allergic to work. And maybe, see, here's another thing. If he was raised fundamentalist, especially in one of these working communities like although the Amish, he couldn't be. There's no way he's a former Amish. No way. But maybe he was abused through labor. And some of these people who are abused through farm work or being made to work, some of them just never internalize it at a level of a work ethic. And I know what happened to my second wife was, she had a very good work ethic. She grew up on a chicken farm working alongside the boys. And her dad, understood that it was legal for him to extract labor out of his stepchildren. But that's another story for another day, perhaps. But and again, it's a cultural thing also. But what she was abused, that wasn't abusive to her. She probably enjoyed it to some extent. Maybe not but as a child, but some people like to work, and she was never scared of work. And I in fact had to force myself to develop a work ethic. I would have been a type who would have tried to avoid it at all costs, except my scary father more or less made me work for him. which was really what needed to happen. Uh, I don't know that I would have, and I was enough of an ornery asshole. It would have been difficult for somebody to just make me work a job other than him. Now people say, oh, well, economically, this, that, the third. I don't know. There used to be such a thing as a gigolo. I mean, who knows what would have been possible. Thankfully, I never had to explore that. There's a reason why I choose not to do that. There's many reasons when absolutely I could do that. Change up my diet a little bit, get a little bit of specific exercise for about a month. Make sure I'm sleeping good. Maybe cut the salt intake a little bit, get dried out, let the face. This is in a sad commentary on American society. Let my face hollow out a little bit, and the women will be right on top of me again. They're not quite as interested in me. And in fact, it's Christmas ain't over yet. Definitely it's going to happen every year after the holidays is the peak of bizarro female attention directed at me. And I feel bad for women because they've been forced to interact with their families, many of whom are older generations who don't know how to shut the fuck up about when are you going to settle down? Why aren't you in a relationship? Where are our grandchildren? And then next thing you know, they spot old Benton at the grocery store. And I'm looking at them like, I'm pretty sure y'all have been through this. I've been through it. Can't we just look at each other and realize that neither one of us wants to go through this again? Or, I mean, like, what do you need from me at this moment, lady? Like, what can I do for you? Right. Like, how can I help you through this process? Because this is not maybe she just needs me to check her out a little bit and, kind of just as I'm walking away, go, lovely, right? Or just anything, whatever that is that I know how to, or stand there with the bobblehead with the goofy grin and just stand there with the bobblehead, a he, a hilka. Whatever you need, Toots. But there's three of you following me around the fucking grocery store. I mean, at a certain point, y'all understand I'm a retard. I don't know how to cope. The neurodivergence doesn't know what to do with this. There's been enough so-called ego death. This is no longer a compliment. Stop it. I know where y'all are at. Your families have got you to thinking, well, maybe I will give men another try. No, you won't. Yeah, Chad will come rearrange whatever needs to be rearranged. That's fine. This ain't good for any of us. A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. That's true. It's worse. She wants a man, most of them. That's far worse. Society, I would argue, was way less oppressive to women when can we just call it what it is? It's beneath a woman. It's a woman becomes less of what she otherwise is by wanting a man. It's the need of a man should be present. Because at some point, at least once a month, they're looking at this motherfucker like, can you believe this motherfucker? This motherfucker again. And I know that look. And I'm looking at her like, yeah, exactly. This mother in a Benton's in trouble, Benton's in the doghouse. No, it's like, yeah, of course. Meanwhile, lady, you're the one in a relationship with a man, not me. Now, people who might know my history might have their own thoughts on that. Yeah, I've never been in a relationship with a man. So it's like, yeah, woman, you're the one in a relationship with me. I don't know what to tell you. I can't be in trouble. That doesn't exist in there's no doghouse. In fact, if you don't act right, I'm not coming home to you. So it's like, yeah, I'm a benevolent dictator, but this ain't Akash, from whatever that podcast is, if my woman starts tripping, I don't come home to her at a certain point. It's like, what are we talking about? So yeah, I get it. I can read that facial expression. This motherfucker. Yeah, absolutely, lady. I get it. Yes, but we don't ick anymore. It's like, yeah, lady, there's not a man in the realm who will not give. There's not a single man who will not give any woman the ick at least one time in any given 30-day period. Not one. Her dream man, whatever that is, her idealized version of a man, doesn't matter. If she spends 30 days with that motherfucker, she will have the ick. Absolutely. It's unavoidable. There's no, and so males don't understand this and think they've done something wrong. Sir, no, the only thing you've done wrong is you're physically present, sir. And the ick is happening. Your maleness caused it. Meanwhile, the very idea of being a man is ridiculous and absurd on its face. And that was the entire premise, as far as I can tell, of that Valerie Solano Society for Cutting Up Men Scum Manifesto. That more or less seemed to be the entire, and that was largely satire, as far as I can tell. And I believe I read it on here in its entirety. And I went on a stream with another content creator. And some of that content was remixed, but never to be seen again, as far as I know. But I may get back into that at a certain point. But yeah, and I think I'm pretty sure I'll take credit for this. I'm pretty sure I had detected just the sheer absurdity of male beingness. But I mean, it's absurd and ridiculous on its face. It's just the idea of being it is. It's important, in my view, for a man to understand and accept that. And then now we're back to waking dream, surrealistic unreality, deja vu all over again, which certainly includes elements of the absurd, right? How could it not? And men will immediately say they're a lot of males will reverse the gender. It's like, oh, I'm sure they have their own version of this, guys. And I'm not saying that they don't. Or maybe, well, actually, women will reverse it, not males. My apologies. Like, oh, absolutely, ladies, I get it. I'm only speaking from the male perspective here, and I'm also empathetically addressing what I assume to be portions of the female experience. But yeah, this whole where we play the invert the roles game, yeah, it works both ways, but each of us is only mostly involved in the one-way street version. It is a one-way street in that way. And so the male version of the ick is, okay, I'm in the grocery store. For whatever reason, I've got whatever they think they're trying to get out of me. And the fact is, most males are simply not attractive to the majority. It's just what it is, guys. I didn't make it that way. Please don't be mad at me. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Somehow I just barely managed to be in that, barely made it into the somewhat attractive to some portion of women. But most men are just effectively unattractive to the vast majority of women. It's what it is, guys. I didn't make it that way. It's just what it is. And so if I happen to be, here's the male equivalent of the woman, I'm going to give her the ick. So let's say I actually humor one of these women that's following me around the grocery store right after the holidays because she's internalized these spiritual attacks around she needs to have a man. But I'm like, yo, you need a man like a fish needs a bicycle, and we both know it. But here's the problem is, I can't get through 30 days without giving her the ick, and that's normal. Meanwhile, she can't get through the first 5 minutes without annoying the fuck out of me. And 25, surprise, surprise, society was structured a little differently where really that was sort of accounted for, and my own high-level hormones would sort of fill in the gaps. And I find the idea of being a 50-year-old dating, it's ridiculous. I'm from such an old school culture. 50-year-olds shouldn't date. Just there should be. It just shouldn't exist. In my opinion, that's my opinion. Now I'm not on a crusade of hey, knock it the fuck off. I come from some version of Andy Griffiths Mayberry. Aunt B was about my age and was portrayed as a very old lady. She wasn't expected to go off into a sexual marketplace, get some body shaping. Now they had their own version of body shaping back then, but she weren't expected to go, get her some or whatever. It just wasn't allowed. It wasn't a thing. Now, yeah, maybe she could meet a man and they could court, and it's companionship. It wasn't this sexual marketplace, right? I'm not supposed to be dating the age. It's ridiculous. And no. But meanwhile, these 2025 version of these broads with, feminism fully present in all layers of society, and then, and it's unbecoming for, why am I being approached? It doesn't happen very often where they actually start talking to me. It's like, whoa, come on now. You're better than this lady. I'd like to think. Yeah, we understand the following me around and standing near me. That's sort of yeah, I get it. But you got plausible deniability there. And then the Gen Z chicks that have just that have sidled up next to me at the egg section of the Walmart with her boyfriend and started talking to me. And I'm just like, okay, I got to get the fuck out of here. This is fucking bizarre. And, yeah, lady, I can imagine all sorts of things that might happen in a vacuum if I wasn't if I wasn't on some spiritual shit and retired from dating and relationships. But meanwhile, most of what comes to my mind isn't even really legal because we're in the fucking super center, but pretty sure I was picking up whatever she was putting down, or I could have picked up whatever she was putting down. And what? I don't know about all this. And meanwhile, your husband or your fella, he's going to have to go away because I understand that the pornography's gone a certain direction, but he can't watch. Isn't that more humiliating if that's what he's into? Isn't that worse for him? I don't know. I don't know how it works. I'm a prude overall. May not seem that way. Jeez. I'm feeling kind of funny inside, just even entertaining such notions. I don't mean funny in a good way either. So that's probably a violation. Getting a little too closely identified with the so-called pleasures of the dead flesh there. But, just because the being can perform a function doesn't necessarily mean the being should perform a function. Would try to get out of this truck's way, but now we got oblivious four-wheeler entering the fray. I was going to try to get out of this truck's way because I'm pretty sure I know where he's going. Ain't nothing I can do for you now, fella. Yep. This four-wheeler, they don't have a clue. But we know that. We don't expect them to. Why would they? Oh yeah, now they're going to make us drive. They're going to make us earn our keep today. And based on the amount of cars, this is just an unnecessary amount of driving y'all are making me do. And we know why. No reason to be frustrated or annoyed. It is what it is. Every damn one of them is looking at that screen and giggling at that feed. Every fucking one of them. And the driving has become quite childish. It's ASA 9, ASA 10, ASA 11. Okay, I'll get a little annoyed. ASA 9, ASA 10, ASA 11. And what I like is the new thing where a lot of people now come to complete stops because they've trained themselves when they get to the intersection up ahead. Now they get a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi to look at their phone before they pull out, except some of the time the light magically changes and they don't notice because they've already factored in a stop and gape at their phone. Stop and gape. So we just all sit here on a green while people take their phone break that they feel entitled to. Anyway, it's enough complaining about the traffic for now. Reserve the right to reclaim my time in that vein. But my thing is, I'm happy to stand there with the bobblehead and the goofy facial expressions, but I'm out. If she's going to annoy me, no, I'm out. Absolutely. Get away from me, lady. Please don't talk to me. No offense. Respectfully, leave me the fuck alone. You got to leave. And that's what happened the last time a woman actually, and she I don't know if was she trying to flirt? I know how to flirt. I don't know what she was doing exactly. I don't think she knew what she was doing, but I basically had to tell her I don't need your help, and if I need your help, I'll ask for it. And pretty please with sugar on top, would you leave me the fuck alone? And then you get into this psychological thing where like she's made a faux pas, but then I'm sort of expected to own it. But it's like, what do you do when you got a neurodivergent, antisocial weirdo on some level who just, I'll happily just stand here with all of this social tension present. I don't give a fuck. I didn't do it. You did it. I'm not taking ownership of this tension that now everybody's tense, lady. You leave me the fuck alone. And I'm not rude. It's very neutral. Like, hey, I don't need any help picking out limes, lady. Basically, I'll let you know. I had a old drunk woman in the lessons. I was and it's of course the last resort if I'm actually asking the staff a question. And she tried to butt in and more or less try to give me advice or try to tell me how to handle the situation. And I just looked at her and said, I'll take it from here, thanks. And then she just acted like it was the rudest thing that had ever happened. And there was nothing left to say. That was like, mind your business, lady. What is this? Thanks, but no thanks. Of course, she's a regular, very drunk, very, very intoxicated. Seemed like a decent person otherwise. And as somebody who's probably gone around heavily intoxicated and maybe from time to time inserted himself into situations that it may not have been completely appropriate, the person who's behaving that way better know how to read the cues of, hey, man, it's time to get the fuck out of Dodge. You done fucked up. You misread it. It's time to go. This is not the time to try to save face, drunkie. The drunk better understand how drunk they are. And I've never, Oh, Benton ain't a drunk. He's practiced at being a drunk. I've studied at it from time to time. I did hit on a broad one time, drunk as fuck. And her reaction, I realized I'd completely misread the situation, and I basically just politely apologized and physically backed away from her and left as quickly as I could. It was like the sheer horror on the woman's face was like, okay, well, thankfully I know not to say anything inappropriate, but some boundary somewhere has certainly been crossed. If not certainly not a legal one, but yep. Oops. I think I basically said, basically like, oh, I'm clearly mistaken here. My apologies. Uh, I'm sorry to have bothered you. And then just, I think I backed away and turned and left. Like, my bad. Because generally, whether drunk or not, the rare times I do choose to approach a lady, typically I'm able to do it in a socially acceptable manner and to play off of her cues, and then perhaps exchange contact information. Well, in fact, at a certain point was quite adept at doing exactly that. Even was paid money from time to time to teach fellas how to do that, as ridiculous as that sounds. Thankfully, I had the good sense not to make that into my living. Good Lord, what a nightmare that would have been in the long run. Like this, I hear about this Rollo Tomasi every once in a while. It's like, oh, yeah, him turning that into his job, that's a miserable existence, I promise you. Yeah, he's got it, everything he wants in some ways, I'm sure, but that is no lunches are free, sir. No, thank you. Not interested. That's abject misery to some extent. To still be doing that 15 years later. What are you doing, sir? Where am I? Indiana? Is everybody stoned? I think everybody's stoned. I'm so good with the pattern recognition. It's fairly obvious when, because the cell phone thing, that's a piece of it. But now I'm detecting everybody's stoned, and that ends up being a particular style of driving. Also, if anybody's ever driven around Boulder, Colorado, around 3 in the afternoon, just how bizarre that can be. And at a certain point, just everybody, including me, is stoned. Yes, now it makes sense. Oh, I missed my fucking turn. Damn it! Damn it! Oh, fuck. Hang on. All right. Now we got stoned people on top of us, and they are pacing me from 25 car lengths back in a 45, and I'm slowing down to nothing, and they're back there pacing me at 30. Now put the flashers on, and they're beginning to understand what I'm. Because sometimes the trucker's just lost or needs to make a U-turn or something needs to happen. It's like, why are y'all pacing me? Because I might be about to do a U-turn, possibly. Don't know yet. Only when safe, and I can't tell yet based on the road. That gas station's almost big enough. Yeah, the road is curving, and I got to be able to see everything to do a U-turn safely. All right, we're doing it. So the key is to be reasonably sure that at the point at which the trailer blocks uh, the lanes of the people coming up behind, uh, that there's nobody coming whatsoever. So you might think, you could assume, well, people will see that trailer blocking the entire road and not crash into it. You cannot assume that. And now, hilariously, on the side of the road we've turned into is just now it's like 60 annoyed drivers, which I'm being hyperbolic. 1, 2, 3. It's a shift leaving work, and not a single car came from that direction. Wait a minute. Not a single car came from that direction, and for some reason, one of them stuck with me, but and now because of what the GPS did in reconfiguring, it's all confused. I think we're going the proper way, and this is another thing. I feel like in the past, people had a little bit more of an ability to profile, and this is back to my contention around the general public is no longer processing data and haven't been for quite some time, but it's fairly easy to say, oh, that's an 18-wheeler. That's long haul. He doesn't know where the fuck he's going. He's trying to figure it the fuck out. There's 2 lanes. He's got his flashers on. Maybe we should just get the fuck away. They're following me. I'm going 21 miles an hour. There's a car to my left refusing to pass. There's 2 other cars behind me just going 21 miles an hour at 45. This is your country, folks. This is your country that's somehow going to be a proper society. It's somehow going to reform itself. It's somehow going to write. They don't have it in them, folks. Now, yeah, I can come on here and call myself a retard till we're blue in the face. These people don't have they don't even have that as a plausible reason. I mean, I wish I had. Now here comes the person driving normally, going 55 to 60 and a 45, who's probably just like, what even is this? And then again, back to the lucid dreaming. So that is a waking dream. That's your. So when I read that book on lucid dreaming, a lot of it was training oneself to observe the dream, to look for clues. Okay, well, real life could never operate this way. Well, if this was a real realm, it wouldn't be possible mathematically for me to drive down a road. Nobody's coming from the oncoming lanes. Remember, this is 2 lanes in each direction, but it's city driving. But it's early enough in the morning still, nothing's happening. And I have to wait for the road to stretch out, to straighten out. Oh, look, there just happens to be an open space in the median. Now we execute the U-turn. Nobody's coming from the other way. And the moment I'm straightening out my trailer, a shift of a warehouse has let out. And they're annoyed and frustrated because from their perspective, they've come around a bend and a 18-wheeler's finishing up their U-turn. This is not a real. This is a dream on some level. 100%. Otherwise, that shit would not be possible. What are the mathematics behind me missing a turn, executing a U-turn in a semi truck and trailer directly into the path of a bunch of people who just got let out of their shift at the plant, and now they can't wait to go to the bar or whatever they do at 6 in the morning, 6:16 a.m. in this small town. But the bigger town is it's actually on, a proper big road. There's a Lowe's, for example. So I don't know, 15,000 people maybe. The bigger town, not the small town. Or I guess you can call it a small city maybe. But probably not. Probably not even that big. But these people can't even convey themselves from point A to point B intelligently. Oh, and there's a Walgreens been vacant for probably 5 years. Right. And I'll tell you one thing I'm pretty sure I'm going to do if I manage to move out of this truck. I want to go. I like to take pictures. Oh, you're going to pass me, actually, with a wide open pass lane? Can't believe it. Anyway, I'm not going to complain about the traffic, at least for now. But, I'm not a photographer in that I've never learned the actual like lighting and, here's what kind of ISO 400 and all this bullshit. And I kind of like the gambling or the just sort of serendipitous aspects. So we'll just, we'll more or less use the autofocus and the auto settings, and we'll just we'll hope for the best. And, maybe the planets do align. At times I've taken some pictures that even impress me. So I do have I have an eye for composition and all this, certainly artistically. And it's taking fucking pictures. I mean, come on. Let's not make it into, look, it's pointing a fucking lens at something. It's not, there's an artistic element to it, but come on. It's not pump it up into something it's not. Maybe at the highest level, sure. This ain't that. But yeah, I'm definitely seeing a lot of dystopian elements that I'm sure have been present for years, but I think, the mood of the people, the loss of hope, in a lot of ways, which isn't even a loss of hope. It's it's really, I would say, more of an acceptance. Perhaps the only way out is through style, just acceptance of certain things, a surrendering to certain realities, perhaps. Good vibes only, that only carries one so far. Yes, sir. I'm really going 35 through here. You're just going to have to figure it out. There's 3 lanes. I don't know what to tell you. I'm in the middle one. You're in the one to my right. You're just going to have to figure it out. Hey, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. Terrific. I guess I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Yes, this is a this is, I don't know, 100,000 people. So yeah, I must have been on the outskirts and didn't know what I was looking at. Just ran a light, which I almost never do, but hilariously, it's a 45 zone. I just ran a light at 36 miles an hour because it's like, just slamming on the brakes didn't seem to be the move. And it was safe, so. I almost never run a light at speed. Usually, I'm just slow rolling through one because it's like, well, that's the point of no return, and that's the yellow light occurring simultaneously. So we're not stopping. And you want to talk about, economics and the idea of depression, and, the idea a collapse of society. Well, the reality is society is maintained within a state of collapse. That's its, incredible Hulk style secret. It's never not collapsing in on itself, even as it seems to be built up at times. It's built up within the context of perpetual collapse, if that makes sense. And I certainly can't have been the first person to recognize this, but I haven't heard it conveyed in that way. So you're welcome. But I'm thinking about, I saw some really interesting visuals, dystopian visuals in Monroe, Louisiana. And I need to finally buy myself a proper cheap point and shoot camera with a zoom lens. And I probably need to, while I have money, just go ahead and travel around. And since I do have an interest in photography, now I might have to try to figure, and I also prefer the non-touched up versions of photography. Of course, the cameras, a lot of them have some version of processing built into them. That's another thing with phones. If I take pictures with my phone, whatever's built into the software, it's processing it. And if not, Google processes it, so. And I don't even mind if the camera compresses the JPEG. I don't have to have raw format. I just want the thing. I want, whatever the software was doing years ago on a point and shoot, give me that. But with a proper, a proper resolution, pixel density, and all of that. But it don't have to be necessarily HD either. But yeah, that's something I could see myself doing. All right, let me get a little bit of coffee here, if I may. So probably do a week in Chicago, rest up, could probably figure out. Well, in Chicago's, any city really, any large city is a good place to, even Craigslist, to find some sort of digital camera. If y'all know Benton, I ain't dropping no $500. Almost pulled the trigger on one for like $180 at a certain point. I think it was I forget the brand. Doesn't really matter that much, but it had a really nice proper zoom, because every once in a while I'm like walking in LA and I see a perfect picture and it's like, I just can't, I can't get this without a zoom. I can't get it without a proper zoom. It's not possible. It's a bit of a bummer. Laser tag? What? I don't think they mean that. Something that it may seem counterintuitive based on my descriptions of my upbringing, but my family had laser tag, if anybody remembers laser tag. Coca-Cola, when my father, in order to get him to purchase a certain amount of cases of Coke, they would just give him things. At a certain point, we were given laser tag. And go figure out what the deluxe fucking family pack of laser tag would have cost in today's. It's probably $750. Like, I'm not even kidding. And when people want to romanticize the 80s and the 90s, most people can't conceptualize just how insanely expensive it was to buy damn near anything back then, especially if it involved technology. It was fucking crazy what stuff cost. You know, a proper VCR at a certain point was like $800. And this wasn't like when it first came out and it was a novelty. I mean, a lot of people had them. It wasn't to where just, oh, it's 99% of households yet, but a lot of people had them. Maybe I'll go on a cheap motel tour. Here's the Travel Inn in Fort Wayne. Maybe I shouldn't dock to potential location, weekly, daily, monthly. I've been here before and noticed that. I got to make a note of that. Hang on. My apologies. I thought I could do this on the phone. I'm streaming from. How silly. StreamYard ain't going to let that happen. Hang on. Travel. Press the button, sir. Travel in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Daily, weekly, monthly. What time were we slated to arrive? I think my appointment's at 10. Let's see. It says, yeah, I'm an hour early. I don't know if I should bother stopping for fuel or not. I probably shouldn't, but maybe I will. I don't necessarily need to. That's some German in the chat. I know it'll be two. Maybe three. Bulk Hungry got jokes. There you go. And then every once in a while, you just have a normal person driving like, it's the old days. What a blessing. Love that. That's how people are supposed to drive around semis. Get the fuck around the semi and get the fuck away from it. Most of these people are trying to hang out with me. Why y'all snuggling? I don't get it. I'm an 18. We're different species. It's an entirely different species. How long we been driving? Haven't even had a bathroom break yet. 2 hours. It's almost red grape and blueberry time. I really haven't seen anything. Of course, it's not even daylight yet. don't know how long I'd want to hang out in Fort Wayne. Probably could walk around all day for a week or so. Is that the Amazon warehouse? What is that? It's a bunch of bobtails waiting. They're parked on the side. Yep, Amazon. TA in Fort Wayne. Excellent. Being visual, it's hard for me to remember which truck stop is which truck stop, but when I see it, I know it, if that makes any sense. It's hard for me to. I don't even know where I'm at half the time. I mean, I'll just call it what it is. Or I do, but I'll have to think about it. And I'm a little annoyed sometimes by these truckers who speak the trucker. And it's not that they're not annoying; it's that I'm annoyed by probably they just assume that I because I drive a truck that I understand the trucker lingo around. People that have all the roads memorized. It's like, yeah, my brain just doesn't work that way. I mean, and I don't care enough. Yeah, I could, in order to fit in, I could learn it. But it's like, the this to that to this 71 to this other number to that other number. It's like, okay. I mean, I can bring up my app and follow along with you, but I need a visual. I can't. Just my brain can't do that through the auditory form. It's not able to do that for whatever reason. I can't make that conversion on the fly. So it's like, I don't even attempt it. I could probably visually memorize the fucking map if I needed to, though, fairly easily. And, speak based on what I remember. But as far as just following along with somebody's description of, this road to that road, I don't know. Okay. They're probably thinking, "What is this guy retarded?" Yeah, he is. I'm embracing the retard. Yes, he is absolutely retarded. Because yet again, last night, I'm going to try to back in to park to wait. He's a retard. He don't know how to pull up and make it look like everybody else. Now some Mexicans climbing out of his truck, going to come direct traffic. So of course I got to get out. Retarded. That's just what I tell him now. And then he can't decide if he wants to pretend to speak English or not. Playing it close to the vest with how much English does he want to let me know he speaks? Because I guess he thinks he's just going to stand down there and direct traffic in my mirror. Just like, no, you're not. Because even if that's going to happen, we're going to talk about it, and then I'm in charge. So if you're volunteering for duty, I'm going to tell you what I need you to do, sir. This is not. I'm not going to look in my mirror while you walk around making hand signals on the tarmac. This is not the fucking flight deck, sir. No. So, and I know part of it is he just doesn't want me to hit his truck, and my pull-ups are so bizarre at times, and my maneuvers are they just look strange. My thing has always been, well, if I back it into the hole and don't hit anything, why does anybody? It doesn't make sense. Why do you care? But any deviation from the norm, the normie doesn't know what to do, because remember, the NPC normie normalizes everything that's incongruous, or they seek to make it congruous. And now I've woken a trucker up who's could have passed this slow-moving four-wheeler, but now that I'm pulling it to pass, now he's going to decide to go faster. And actually, I had no idea that I'm now speeding, because I didn't realize it was the 60 zone. We'll just deal. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Yeah, now he's coming around because we can't have somebody else. See, we got the road sheriff. Oh yeah, he can't be made to look foolish. He can't have people suspecting he might be lacking in the groin region. Nope. Uh-uh. Boy, howdy. He needs his pound of flesh. Oh, even worse, he scared me. He thought I was going to speed for us. No, sir, I'm not speeding for us. In fact, I didn't even know I was speeding because I'm yapping at the internet. So why you're following a bunch of slow ass four wheelers in the slow lane is even more puzzling than whatever I might have been doing. Oh, I think I'm passing that TA right about now, maybe. No, that's something different. Where the TA is. Yes, punish me, Daddy. And I don't mean that. I mean from his perspective. Come on, man. There's really no reason for any of this. What are we doing? I just refuse to play. I just refuse to do that. It's like, oh, now we're in sense. Why? Because I had the audacity to pass slow moving traffic. Oh my God, the horror, the abject fear and shame, the loathing. But go be sheriff of the road, man. I have no problem with it. Take it away, buddy. I'll go 48 back here if I need to. That's how bad the driving is. I'm preferentially going 50 into 60 to get these fuckers away from me. Anyway, I think it's time for some fruit. Please forgive me for eating on stream. Uncouth. Man, still got 3 hours of driving. We're on the slow boat. I blame everybody but me. Off US 33. Well, if I could be bothered to look at the map. Doing too many things. Man, these red grapes ain't worth the fuck. Now, this light is almost certainly about to change. It'll be a miracle if we get through this one. Yep, I knew it. I felt it. Rush hour into Chicago here in a couple hours. Blame your mother? Yeah, blame. Blame Pops. Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah, I get it. A little levity is certainly appropriate at times. But again, as we all know, I always reserve the right to take things quite literally. As I believe everybody should afford themselves or could afford themselves that right. I don't know about should. I'd be up to them. All right, I guess I'm out of here. Maybe I can find some content. Bye.